evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to the Flatout Racing Network's continued coverage of Season 65 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Barebones Racing Series. Tonight, we prepare for our third race of the season, Super Speedway racing at the 3-mile Coca-Cola Super Speedway. Wildcard race for sure, could play a huge part into the finish of this regular season, a driver able to win their way into the playoffs. So far, 2 drivers have gone to victory lane. Will we see a third one at the conclusion of 59 laps? I'm Seth Colby, joined by Sean Prime. And Sean, normally we have the stats, we have a lot of background on a racetrack coming into an event. A lot of unknowns here, including the racetrack, since it's the first time it's ever appeared on the Barebones Racing schedule.
Yep, first time for sure. One we're very much looking forward to. Don't know what to expect, like you said, but I'm thinking we're going to see plenty of action. Serious high banks, 3 miles, speeds upwards of 200 miles an hour. The banking here's got some, interesting but pretty good transitions going into 1 and 2, so we could look for some trouble spots there. Careful here out of pit road, but I don't know how many wide we're going to see, and I'm not sure what top speed we're going to get to see tonight, but I'm just excited to kind of watch it with you.
We normally see Super Speedway racing on Thursday nights. Those 2 particular racetracks, 2.66 miles in length, a little bit longer of a distance here, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in terms of the fuel window. Now, you took the opportunity here under practice to go out there running the draft and everything. The last thing I remember about this particular racetrack is it's one of the few super speedways where tire wear and tire heat seems to come into play. Was that anything that you were experiencing out there in a pack?
Didn't see too much of it. I did do a full fuel run earlier and got through there. We weren't mixing it up too much, and look for a fuel window somewhere around 16 laps seems to be a safe bet, depending on where that draft speed sets up. 17 laps, I think, active saving. Obviously not a track you want to run out of fuel on it, 3 miles in length, but the tire wear and tire temperature, didn't really notice it being too much of a factor. She did seem like she wanted to sit down pretty good in 1 and 2, but it does not drive. It's not your standard Talladega, so there are differences.
A lot of drivers coming into this race at the conclusion of 2 events, running very well in the point standings, and I look and I see a number of names that we're familiar with seeing running up front in the conversation for a checker flag on Thursday night. You got Josh Metallic, Grant Wesley, Jeremy Jeffries. These are former Talladega Challenge Series champions, but we talk about how super speedways leveled the playing field. You've got your underdogs that, they finish consistently top 10, top 15, but they're not always in the conversation for a victory here on the Cup side. How much of an opportunity do they have here this evening, or do you think we see a lot of those drivers that are so well-versed on Thursday nights rise to the top here in this one?
Well, I think you'll see the super speedway veterans feel comfortable out there, but again, not your standard, tri-oval fixed super speedway like all the versions of Daytona we run and Talladega. You've got this track was likened to Kitchen Creek, actually one of the other super speedways that we run. There's some driving to be done here, and as far as drivers seeking fortune here, absolutely. I think it's an opportunity for just about anybody. The biggest thing that I noticed out there running practice was the ability to suck up is immense. You get runs, and you just have to find a place to go with them. That's what I'll be looking for tonight, is somebody getting a big run and having to check out of it because they're 3 or 4 wide in front of them.
This is the only super speedway that will be running here regular season or playoffs in the Barebones Racing Series. So I left this last important point for the final question here in pre-race, the hitbox, because I can't tell you how many times with this next-gen mod, it's beautiful to look at. It looks really cool when all the drivers are in a pack. But its hitbox is kind of unusual, and I was watching a number of these drivers out there, even on the straightaways. They give a shove to the car in front, and that car in front got majorly out of shape. Is that something that these drivers are going to have to maybe adjust to, is kind of figuring out where the hitbox is going to be here, especially with these long straights?
I think it is. I think we've seen, with some changes with the server EXE we've been using, guys are getting used to it. I see a lot of forgiveness in some of the bumping going on, but like I said, you get a big, huge run coming and you tattoo somebody's back bumper, we're going to see something happen.
We are indeed 59 laps of racing. That halfway point, that halfway caution, not caution, I should say, the halfway stage points, I should say, getting paid out at lap 30. And we were talking before we came on the air. I mean, it's been pretty much decided by the time they take the proverbial white flag for halfway as to who's going to get those stage points. But here, we could end up having that 10th position change 5, 6, 7 times before we come around and get the green and white checkered flag. But as we said, not a whole lot of stats here, a lot of information about this particular racetrack in its past history with the Barebones Racing Series, because there is none. This, I believe you mentioned, was run in the Truck Series, so there is a little bit of at least an idea in that regard of what to expect. But coming off the heels of that race last week at North Wilkesboro, we saw Jeff Supta be able to go to victory lane, and there's a lot of interesting storylines coming out of that one in preparation for drivers looking for continued momentum, but other drivers that, as we mentioned, that are looking for stage points. There's two notables that didn't get any stage points last week.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about, points days, big points, wild cards, and this track is a big points wild card track. And you hit on the halfway stage points from Wilkesboro. And again, we saw two drivers actually that have had really good finishes. At least one had a second place finish in the first race and 21st in the second race. But Jeremy Jeffries, who was our week one winner, is finding himself sitting down in fourth place in points, even though he brought her home with a respectable seventh place finish over at Wilkesboro. Excuse me, a fifth place finish at Wilkesboro. And the difference there is stage points again, because Rodney and Jeremy, during the course of their events at Wilkesboro, found themselves on the outside looking in from the top 10 at the halfway point and cashed 0 points. And after two races, that makes a bit of a difference. And Josh Metallic, who by contrast has been third in both our first two races and been first or second or third in the halfway points, is finding himself in second place at points behind your points leader, Jeff Supta.
And for people as well, why are we stressing about stage points? Because not only is there a regular season championship on the line, but there actually is a points payout depending on how high you are in the point standings at the conclusion of the regular season. We know 12 drivers will point their way into the playoffs, and obviously any drivers inside of 13th through 20th with a victory would get a playoff position as well. Right now, our two former winners on the season, Jeremy Jeffries and Jeff Supta, they are currently fourth and points leader respectively, so they're safe to get in on points, and the race victories that they've picked up here will also be translated into bonus points once the playoff standings are reformatted. So this particular racetrack, not the usual one that these drivers have run. It's not a Daytona, it's not a Talladega, it's a slightly different animal. There's obviously a lot of drivers that partook in that truck race that'll have a little bit of an idea of what to expect from this particular racetrack, and may have run this racetrack in other series as well. How much patience do we see utilized here in the early going of this race? Because it is moderate damage. That is slightly good news for drivers if they run into issues and make some slight contact, but we talk about it all the time in super speedway racing. You cannot win this race on the first lap, but you can definitely lose it.
You certainly can, and we're going to see how the tone is set here. I honestly do not know what to expect. Again, big field, you get starting over 30 cars. If you're back there and get a huge run, you got to have some place to go with it. So it's going to take that discipline to check in and check out, and we're going to kind of see how it goes if we get along here. Got a couple stats left from Wilkesboro if you want to close the book on that one, sir.
All right, go for it.
Well, as we know, Jeff Supta brought home the checkered flag. He did have himself some trouble in that very first caution, caught damage, so it wasn't an uneventful night for him. But he came up on top, led the most laps at 60 laps, with Grant Wesley following that up with 53rd. So they pretty much took care of the leading. Our top five, again, were your winner, Jeff Supta, Grant Wesley that we just mentioned, Josh Metallic, Nick Gunther in his debut of the series, finished at fourth, and Jeremy Jeffries, week one winner, brought her home in fifth. Fastest lap of the race, again, you can hear this name, Jeff Supta, with a 20.172. And the highest climber, Mr. Brian Schilling, started 31st, and so held that 29th with the two broadcasters. 10th place finish, a gain of 21 points, and hard luck gentleman was Mr. Jeff Cavello. Started 10th, brought her home with 25th.
Start your engines.
As there's command to fire him up.
And we're off with, there goes Wilkesboro. We had 10 lead changes amongst 4 lead drivers, and that's all we got for Wilkesboro. Let's settle in and enjoy this as they roll off pit road.
Absolutely. So Grant Wesley clocks in with a 58.941. Captures the pole position here tonight. He'll have Chuck McClure to his outside on the front row. Jeremy Jeffries and Dante Ricky, they're going to be in row number 2. Jeff Supta, last week's winner, and Nick Gunther will be row 3. Denny Carroll, Bob Dixon, row 4. And your top 10 completed with Josh Metallic and Randy Waugh. Glenn Harris, Dave Melson, they're back in row 6. Frank Rivard and Jim Glaude in row 7. Row 8 finds Ronald Lucet and Terry Bombard. Row 9 will be Ron Hagelin and Andre Charest, and then Greg Palmer, Bobby Farrell will complete the top 20. In 21st place will be Cy Jones with Rodney Sullins 22nd. Row 12 with Dennis McCarthy, Jeff Crivello. Jeffrey Elliott was the last driver to take time. He'll be on the inside of row 13 alongside of Jason Scheck. Colin Flick, Brian Schilling, they're back in row 14. Row 15 will be Mike Mangialardi and Bob LaChance. Then you've got 31st place going to be Kelly Causey, 32nd John Godfrey. Row 17, Tom Dixon, Doug Hulick, and the 35th driver to take the green flag here tonight, biggest field so far this season, will be Billy Elliser. And you brought up about those North Wilkesboro facts, so let's also remember that for Jeremy Jeffries, Nick Gunther, they had to work their way back through the field. Jeremy got caught out on pit road, got trapped a lap down with an untimely caution, and Nick Gunther got hit with a black flag. So those two coming back for some good point stays had to overcome some adversity in the second half of that race. May see some drivers have to overcome some adversity in the first half of this race as well. Have to wait and see. Getting ready for 59 laps at the Coca-Cola Super Speedway. Couple of Chevrolet bow ties bring us down here towards the start-finish line. Flagman's got the green in the air, and we're racing.
Looks like we're getting off clean here, and Grant Wesley's going to take us into turn 1 with Chuck McClure at his side. Grant getting a big push by Jeremy, and then looks like they're starting to stack up on the outside. Be curious to see what line tends to dominate here. We all know what to look for at Talladega. This is a different one for me.
Yeah, it really all comes down to the numbers, I think. The inside line, the middle line, and the third line, specifically on the straightaways, all can work. It all depends on how tight the line is. And right here you can see pretty little distance between the back bumper of the 88, the front bumper of the 1, but on that top side, Dante Ricky, Nick Gunther with a tight draft to Chuck McClure. That's an issue that we're going to have in this race. You saw right there a number of drivers getting down onto that yellow line. That yellow line at most other racetracks is a smooth transition from the banking to the apron, doesn't affect the car as much. It is abrasive when you hit it here. You saw a couple of those drivers, Jeremy Jeffries, Jeff Supta, get out of shape. Something to keep an eye on, because you get down there, that car bottom out, it shoots you up the track, and that middle line could be in trouble if that happens.
It's an excellent point. I did notice in practice there was some bottoming out on the track, but that transition from the super steep banking to the apron is crazy. It just makes everything, and we see the inside now starting to get the numbers going. We're getting to get close to that 200 mile an hour mark. We're pushing 192.
Jim Glaude taking a peek up there, maybe make a third lane. You'll see them potentially go 3 wide on the straightaways. Not necessarily advisable in the corners. The big reason, you see where Chuck McClure's running as Melson got the apron. But you saw the 17 kind of... Oh, there we go. Held that thought. Car catching air back there. Bobby Farrell, Andre Charest. Another car went down pit road. That might have been Hagelin in the 111. Jeffrey Elliott in the 56 caught up in this one as well. Looks like maybe right side damage on the 75 of Andre Charest. I think I saw him go up and bounce off the outside wall. That might have been what led to that incident off of 4.
I am seeing multiple cars with damage. It looks like everybody's got it all gathered up and going again, but we're curious to see how many people actually got involved here.
Turn 4 is a trouble spot, and we're going to see a big reason why. Watch the 111 of Ron Hagelin in the middle, and that 92 push up on that inside line. And we talk about the push up at Talladega off of turn 2. It's the same off of turn 4 at a track like this. The field all accordions up in terms of the room allowed when you narrow up onto the straightaway, and 92 just could not keep the thing from pushing up into the the side of Hagelin, and for Andre Charest, he unfortunately was the buffer between Hagelin and the outside wall.
May have been exacerbated a little bit by some net code from the 111 around Hagelin, but definitely contact between the cars, not just net code.
Cy Jones just got through that. Oh, that's a big hit there into that 45-degree start of the pit wall. Hood first for Bobby Farrell.
That Adam Petty tribute car has seen a better day. I do not know if they're going to get that fixed with moderate damage. We saw a smoking car on Thursday night get fixed.
Yeah, that is true. Wasn't up to speed the rest of the race, but it managed to actually finish the race under power.
Yeah, I was surprised at that. Cy Jones, wow, that was an epic move by Cy. It looks like Dennis McCarthy made another beautiful save there too.
Wow. And you saw Ron Hagelin dart to the left. He actually missed the pit wall, came down pit road. So he would obviously have a black flag, but I would assume since he was avoiding a wreck, gathering up the race car, that would end up being cleared. And that'll be something we'll be talking about here in a little bit as well as pit road, because it is much different than a lot of the super speedways that we're used to going to. But I was going to mention before we had that incident, you'll see them test the waters of 3 wide in the corners, but that third lane, we'll see them as they make their way down here into turn 3. There are 2 distinctive grooves that are marked with a dark gray, and we saw Chuck McClure leading the second line, pretty much just had his right sides up on the edge of that dark gray. You get up into the light gray, there is actually a lack of grip. And a lot of drivers, when they go up there, they actually will start falling backwards. So you see that distinctive line right there, that rubbered-in line, where Crivello and Jeffrey Elliott are up there. Yeah, you can go up there because nobody else is there, but you're not necessarily going to make up a lot of good ground through the corner.
Big wide track, big wide long way around up there.
So Frank Rivard stays out. Early caution here. Most drivers came to pit road, I would assume for nothing other than to top off the fuel tank in case we get into a long green flag run, but opportunity for some drivers to gain some track position. Frank Rivard rolled off the grid in the 13th spot, so this will move him up 12 to the race lead. Looks like Jeff Crivello also staying out here, and they will subsequently be the front row. Jeffrey Elliott in the 56. Let me double check and see with him.
He's being scored presently in 3rd.
Yes, he is. Okay, yep, my scoring did not update, and I was not seeing him where he was on the previous lap. So
and
involved in that incident too, remember.
Tonight. If you've noticed, the caution lights have been switched off. We will be going green this time by.
That new EXE allowing for more green flag racing here. And it looks like, yes, just those 3 drivers, Rivard, Crivello, and Elliott, staying out. Elliott was involved in that incident, went for a spin. Guess the tires didn't wear too badly, as he, despite being involved in the first incident of the evening, is going to net gain on some track position. Grant Wesley, the first on and off of pit road, going to restart in 4th place, and it looks like all 33 drivers that took the green to start this race are going to take the green to continue. So it looks like 2 drivers that I listed off the starting grid did not actually grid up onto pit road. One of which appears to be the 29 of Mike Mangialardi, and I'm still trying to figure out who the other one is. It might have potentially been the 23 of Doug Hulick.
Maybe a scoring problem. I know they're talking about a technicality with Doug's registration on his name. Interesting you see on the camera there as the pace car is coming off. The transitions on the banking coming out of especially turn 4 there and going into the turns. It's not your standard Talladega Daytona stuff. It's more like, as was like mentioned to me, likened to a Kitchen Creek style with the transition from the banking. And I'm just curious if that could be, if we have a trouble spot, if that could be one of them tonight where helps the cars push off. And as we're going green, they're going 3 wide immediately.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head. I think that is going to be more than likely the trouble spot, and it's more of a sweeping bump off of 4 than it is off of 2. It's a little smoother off of 2, so I don't think the second corner will be nearly as much of a problem for them. As you can see, there's a little bit of a hump there, but you can definitely visually see that it's a lot more of a transition for the drivers off the final corner. As here comes Jeffrey Elliott looking to the inside of Denny Carroll. Help from Nick Gunther in that Square D Mazda. Frank Rivard lost the lead, drifts back and slots into the 5th spot, 3rd on that inside line. Grant and company going to get freight trained here through 3 and 4. Elliott will go to the point.
Boy, this track is so wide, Seth. You look how they fan out off the turn there. They could be 5 wide here. Watching them go down to take the first turn, they were deciding, all the way low, all the way high, and there was a big open hole in the middle that 4 more cars could have driven down.
It's 4 distinct grooves you can kind of see there with the seams, but to your point, it is possible for them to take it 6 wide on the straightaway. I would venture to guess they could maybe even take it 7 wide in the corners. It seems a little bit wider in 1 and 2, 3 and 4 than it even is on the straightaway. As now to the inside, ducked by Frank Rivard. He's going to pick up a fellow Chevrolet and Grant Wesley. There's Dave Melson, who's been having a great start to the season, coming to this one 6th in overall points. Behind him, the 21 of Randy Waugh.
Big numbers down low. A little contact there between the 35 of Frank Rivard and the 56 of Jeffrey Elliott there, but looks like none the worse for wear. They're a little stacked up on the outside now, but 2 distinct lines are formed, and we'll see if anybody wants to get that high line going. Looks like that we got some takers now.
It's Greg Palmer, Jeremy Jeffries, Rodney Sullins back there trying to get that 3rd line going. And we saw almost a near moment through 3 and 4. When you're in that middle line, the instinct is to pinch that inside line down. But as you see Dave Melson get the apron there, and we saw Frank Rivard push up on the entry to 3 the previous lap, it's kind of the you pinch, you pay kind of risk there, because if somebody pushes up into you, guess what? You're the one that's going into the wall, not them.
Exactly. And again, I saw a little net code possibly coming out of the 038 of Dave Melson out of his Wendy's machine there. Let's hope that doesn't exacerbate in the turns. Now we've got 3 distinctive lines going.
Nick Gunther going to get shuffled out there. Now tucks back in line.
Back in line. See that, hanging around the back now, starting to make a run. No surprise to see him in the back. I know it's Brian Schilling's back there. I don't think he caught a piece of that early incident. He may be just waiting back there and letting this all sort out.
Biding his time as we're now starting to tempt 4 wide here. You see Palmer, Sullen still on that outside line. Dave Melson put in the middle. That is going to be 4 wide going into 1. We'll drop the camera back to this as now they got to figure out how they're going to sort this. Looks like Metallic will tuck in front of Melson. Melson finds a way into that middle groove. So we were 4 wide for about a couple seconds there, and we're able to settle it back to 3.
That was dicey. 4 wide with the twitching 038 ever so slightly in the middle. That everybody behaved themselves and they pulled it off nicely. I don't think that's the last time we are going to see that.
Jim Cloud into Josh Metallic.
That's a big one.
Sullins, Tom Dixon, Kelly Causey, Jason Scheck, and Sullins is going to go up and over after a second hit from the back end of Causey. John Godfrey also collected up in the 7-11.
Yep, one of our point leaders there, and Josh Metallic definitely involved, had some heavy contact there.
The banking of this racetrack make it so difficult to hold your line going into the corner, and I think we had a case of that there here for our second caution, as Josh Metallic had a car up and into his left rear quarter panel. And then this is a track as well. It may be spacious in the corners, but it is very difficult with the high banking to get your car to turn on a dime, whether it's turn low or turn high, to avoid a wreck. Jim Glaude down on the apron, pushing up into Metallic, who clips Causey. Godfrey, Scheck, Tom Dixon, Rodney Sullins all involved.
Yeah, Jim got down onto the apron, prior to turn entry at about the worst spot it could happen. And so when it came back up, it just shot right up the track into Josh, and then it self-cleaned all the way up to the top wall. Looks like several. I see Jason Scheck, Rodney Sullins involved in there. As you mentioned, John Godfrey. That could be possibly Tom Dixon up by the wall.
Yeah, Tom gets clipped there by Rodney. We're going to have to see how Jason Scheck got involved. And then that hit from the back end of Causey into the driver's side door of Rodney Sullins. This high banking, it got top heavy and went up and over. We'll have to see just how much damage was sustained there arrow-wise by the 38. Let's find the 81 of Jason Scheck, because he was a long ways back here, and I wonder if maybe he slowed and other drivers behind him may not have. Might have been some checkup here.
Got that sharp-looking Jewel Osco
Oh.
machine. Oh, yeah, it just got caught John Godfrey coming off the wall.
Came down trying to avoid. Andre Charest was to his inside. And that sends him up into the wall as well.
I tell you, that's tough luck early again for the 38 of Rodney Sullins. He was involved in an early incident, I believe, with Chris Elliott in the 09 last week at Wilkesboro, and had to hang around to a 21st place finish, and that vehicle went over hard. That's going to be some definite damage, even with moderate damage. You see he's back off pit road, but not see what we're going to have out of that 38 car.
And we've talked the last couple of weeks about drivers that are running well in points, but not running nearly as well as the finishes show because of the lack of stage points. Jeremy Jeffries didn't get any stage points back in stage 1 in the opener. Even though he won the race, he didn't go into North Wilkesboro as the points leader. You documented from North Wilkesboro last week, both Jeremy and Rodney missing out on stage points there. That's why they are currently sitting 4th and 10th in the point standings. And yeah, depending on the damage there on that 38, it may be a second straight week of no stage points for him. I would say, well, I can't say for certain, because it's 33 drivers in the field, and if you say coming to about 3 laps to go, 2 laps to go at this racetrack, if you're back outside the top 20, I don't know if it's possible to be in a line, get enough momentum to get up into a top 10 spot and get some stage points. It kind of seems like that should be the case, but we saw how long it was taking for that third line led by Greg Palmer to make progress up to the front of the field. It's not a 1 lap and you're there. You have to work on it for a few laps.
Yeah, you got to establish that line, especially again the higher line, the longer way around. But if even with Rodney's damage, front and rear on moderate, if he can hide in the draft, somebody behind him, somebody in front of him, he can try to nurse it along, pick up spots where he can. As long as he doesn't get stuck out there trying to lead a line or getting hung near the back, he might be able to hang in there and keep himself roughly in contention, at the mercy of others, but in a good spot, hopefully.
Grant Wesley started this race from the pole, has led 5 laps, a couple of them here under this yellow. Third in points coming into this race. We've got the off week for Memorial Day coming up next week. A little bit of a vacation for all these drivers, but Grant, Josh, even Jeremy, Ron, they're mathematically eligible to be going into our next race at Nashville Superspeedway in 2 weeks' time as the overall points leader. Only 7 points separating the top 3 from Soup to back to Wesley. So you give us a single-digit points lead with your top 3 in the stands at a Superspeedway, the odds are pretty high for potentially that points lead changing.
Absolutely, as much as often as these positions are going to change in the draft here, and don't forget when the little pay window opens up at halfway, this 10 more bonus points is the same as 10 positions on the track.
So you said you did that fuel run, that full fuel run in practice. We're going to have 18 to go for the conclusion of this stage. Can we make it on this run, or are we going to have to pit before then?
Burning my calculator as we speak, sir.
So Grant Wesley, Randy Waugh, Denny Carroll, Dante Ricky, Chuck McClure. That's going to be your top 5 here for this restart. Working our second caution of the evening. All 33 drivers still running and on the lead lap. Jury's out after that big wreck there into turn 3. How many will be up to speed as Grant gets us back under the green?
Yeah, I think it's going to take us a little bit of extra help to get there to halfway. It could be about a lap and a half short by my quick calculations here. So it takes some active savings if we can keep the green flag out till there. Let's be optimistic.
Absolutely. We'll see if they can get to that point. I'd love to see these drivers make green flag pit stops. We talk about how spacious this racetrack is. Pit road is just as wide. It's a very easy pit road to get onto. The one thing that I was kind of thinking about these drivers here tonight, though, that they're going to have in the back of their mind is it's not your usual 55 miles per hour. It's actually 65, so they get a little extra speed there on pit road, and I kind of wondered how many drivers are going to maybe give up track time thinking it's 55 and not realizing, hey, you can go 10 miles per hour faster here. So hopefully they all have that at the forefront of their minds that it is 65 miles per hour for pit road speed here at Coca-Cola Superspeedway.
Hopefully they're all versed in the game. I know it was mentioned in the drivers' meeting, but when it comes to the heat of the moment, they're so used to 55. I totally see your point. Looks like we got a fairly organized line going on the bottom here.
So Denny Carroll tuck in line behind Grant Wesley, Dante Ricky further back in front of Greg Palmer, Randy Waugh all by himself in that outside line. Gonna drift back there to Brian Schilling and Ronald Lucet. Saw all those cars get a little squirrely there off of 2, and leaving the bottom open was Grant Wesley. Denny Carroll will stick his car down there. No help. 3 cars in the middle, 2 cars up top. Here comes the Nissan of Dante Ricky.
He gave him the old, you don't have to go home, lad, but you can't stay here move. I don't think he's going to have a lot of help there as they're stacked up 4 or 5 deep in that middle line right now.
Wesley will lead them off of 4. Dante's going to start going backwards, it looks like. He's right up against the wall. Going to drift back. Might be going into that fuel save mode you talked about. Need a little help to maybe get to the conclusion of the stage end. Dante might be thinking about that right now.
He definitely pressed the express train to the rear. That was not getting hung out. That was, I'm out here. I want to get to the back now. So that was intentional. That may be exactly what he's thinking because, it's going to take some active saving, though.
Nick Gunther going to shoot up to the outside line, try and pick up Randy Waugh. Now tucks back in line. There's Terry Bombard in the 10. A lot of drivers coming into this race, running well in points after the first 2 races. Terry 7th in the overall standings. He's been a driver that's utilized the stage points to his advantage. His finishes have been good, but his stage points pickups have been good as well, as Glenn Harris saved it.
Wow, what a save. Well, he's still working on the apron, but yep, they're all through now. Whew.
Wow, I don't know if he clipped the apron or got a little bump from Jeffrey Elliott, but by all rights and purposes, at a track like this, that car should have been up and into the pack, and somehow he kept it underneath him, and I think he might be able to latch on to Jeff Supta and still be in this draft.
I was thinking the same thing. He may still save the draft. That is definitely the save of the race so far.
Yeah.
And back to your point standings. Yeah, there's a few guys that have taken advantage and having good starts to the season. Dave Nelson finds himself 6th in the points, and Ron Hagelin 5th in the points coming into tonight's race.
A couple of drivers just on the outside of the top 12 in the standings as well. We talked last week with our Barebones Challenger points leader, Colin Flick. He's currently 14th in overall points. Had a great run at North Wilkesboro after struggles in the season opener. Trying to find that purple machine. There he is, towards the rear of the field, that purple Dodge.
Yep, he took the Challenger win last week by bringing her home in 8th overall.
Oh,
and the
caution's out.
I do not see why.
I don't either. Oh, we did have trouble. Bobby Farrell. This is over, I believe, in 3.
Yep, we got a couple involved.
Let's take a look and see what happens. Second incident of the night for that Adam Petty throwback.
You might have jinxed somebody there. I hope not.
Oh.
We were both just talking about him, and look what we did.
Colin Flick on the inside, pushes up a little. And Bobby Farrell goes around. Oh, and then, Glenn Harris coming in.
You had saved it so well.
Oh, man. Harris had indeed lost the pack at that point in time. He was trying to stay latched on to Jeff Supta. Here's another look again, and while there's obviously contact, right there it almost looks like the two of them aren't making contact, like there's a little bit of space. There's a certain word we're not allowed to say on the iRacing side, so we've coined a phrase, gap whack. There's a gap, and you whack the car beside you. And unfortunately, Bobby Farrell getting clobbered there by Glenn Harris after the gap whack with Colin Flick.
It's tough to tell when somebody's coming down off the track, and it is such a steep banking here. Once you're committed that I'm going to go to the high side, the low side, there's not much you can do there.
Well, this caution saves a bunch of the front runners who would have been creating the draft for those behind them and obviously not able to make it to the conclusion of the stage on fuel. This, I would assume now, does get us to that window.
This will get us safely there. Well, right on the buttons. We can go 16 laps from here because don't forget, it is the conclusion of lap 30. And this is a 3-mile track. I noticed that in practice that, usually you think, oh, I got 6 pounds of fuel. I can go one more lap. Maybe not there. Not
Nope.
here.
And I guarantee you, I have seen drivers run out of fuel going that extra lap, and it is painstakingly agonizing waiting for that car to hopefully coast its way all the way back to pit road. So Grant's team holds serve. He'll still be the race leader. Looking, of course, for that bonus point for most laps led here tonight as well. First driver to hit double digits, as that last time by on pit road, he led lap number 10. Jason Scheck, Jeff Crivello, and Jeffrey Elliott are the only other 3 drivers that have led laps so far. Oh, nope, correction on that. Frank Rivard has also led 3 laps.
Looks like a couple of our people had involved in that earlier incident. Josh Metallic finds himself right now in 17th, so he's about mid-pack hanging on. And Rodney Sullins, I noticed, was a late arrival onto pit road, so I'm wondering if he's able to hold up in the draft.
I don't believe so. When we went back and looked at that replay of the incident there with Farrell and Harris, Sullins was behind all of that. I think he had lost the draft very early on in that run. That car appears to be underpowered, so he's soldiering on, trying to see what he can get, kind of Tim Nofsker-esque from Thursday night. If it's still running, go out there, log laps. Maybe this will continue to be a race of attrition. You can pick up some positions which are going to count for points, as Rodney's trying to keep himself up in the top 12 in the overall standings for a playoff spot.
These guys have been doing this for so long, Seth, as you know, and they're such competitors. It's just like the real guys. I mean, if there's a point to be gained, if you can hang out there and suffer through, nobody wants to run around by themselves. But if they have to do it for 45 minutes or an hour because something else may happen to somebody else and there's one more spot to be gained, like I said, in season 63, the championship difference was 2 points. It comes down to that close.
Big picture racing, right? You never know.
It's, like I said, when you get to do this for so long with so many quality people, quality drivers and quality persons, we're also tough competitors with each other. So we'll see how this one shakes out, because we're now at the 1/3 stage of the race.
Go back green here with 19 laps completed, on to lap 20. That's going to give us 11 laps left here until the stage points are distributed out. All 33 drivers are still running, working our 3rd caution of the evening at the debuting Coca-Cola Super Speedway here on the Barebones racing schedule. And you wondered about that top speed and everything. Well, Andre Charest currently top of the board in fastest lap at a 54.404. That equates to 198.515. So we're almost to a 200 mile per hour average lap speed.
We can get there. We can get there. Oh, pace car's coming off. Hopefully we get a little bit of longer run in here. Be nice to see what happens as we get some more tire wear going on and see if there's more comers and goers here. Right now we've got a who's of super speedway drivers leading up the front.
We've seen a lot more here in these first cautions of side-to-side, door-to-door contact than we have any type of bumper-to-bumper contact. And a big reason for that, I noticed on that last run, some pretty good space in between these bumpers. Nobody really that anxious to push, to literally shove the other driver or chain bump down these back straightaways. They're trying to keep the draft as tight as possible, but trying to avoid making any kind of physical contact. So that kind of says to me, back to what I saw with these drivers in practice, where they were trying to do the chain bumping and everything, and cars were getting majorly out of shape.
Yep, and I think they're feeling each other out and feeling out the drafting pack. Maybe they're starting to widen out the lines a little bit. And as I say that, the 56 looks a little low in turn 1, and
Whoa!
It's a big checkup. And no,
Frank Rivard in trouble.
And the 111 is going to go around, and the 75.
And Cy Jones in the 7. Jim Glaude's going to get a piece. Look out!
Boy, Bobby Farrell, another one, just found him there. He was
oh, and then Glenn Harris, 75, comes back up into his path.
Glenn's got to be wondering at this point what to do. Going again, though.
Caution out for the 4th time here tonight. This time looked like it started with the 35 of Frank Rivard, and that one was weird because the term cold tires, usually we talk about that at a mile racetrack, a mile and a half racetrack, a short track. We don't talk about it at super speedway, but that 35 seemed to look like he snapped loose. I don't know if we just didn't catch it and he hit the apron, but that thing seemed to snap towards the inside of the racetrack there going into 3.
Curious to see if it's at that transition point of the banking that we were talking about. But I mean, just like any other speedway, again, this is got some Kitchen Creek qualities to its turns. It may take a lap or two to get the tires up to temp. They might be a little slippery. We'll see how he looks going in here now.
Oh, we got
Check up occurs.
Yep. Got the apron, and Charest got into the back of him, so that's how that 35 car was out of shape. And then it's just a chain reaction of drivers getting involved there. Cy Jones almost got through. He gets clipped by Charest. Farrell almost gets through. He gets clipped by Cy Jones.
And then Glenn Harris.
Yep. The tough thing for Glenn Harris is he could have probably gotten through, but it didn't really look like the 75 held the brakes there. He let the car roll back, and by the time Glenn approached the scene of the accident, 75 was up into the line he was trying to use to get through. We'll focus here on Andre Charest. Hagelin, tough break there for him. He's been running so well in the point standings, 5th coming into this one. Watch right here as the 75 keeps it in reverse, turns it back up the track, and it's just, Glenn's trying to prepare himself to go to the inside of Farrell, and suddenly the 75 is right there in his path.
Yeah, when you're in an incident, as well as you're trying everything to get your car pointed in the right direction. Sometimes you almost lose your orientation, and it's a constant point of emphasis in all series that we, try to lock it down, try to hold your position on the track, and just not roll across into the path of ongoing traffic. But it's easier said than done in the moment.
Well, we are working our 4th caution. We had 3 yellows and everybody was still running. Unfortunately, this 4th caution is going to render us some retirees, as Andre Charest and Glenn Harris, who took some pretty big shots there in that incident, they are both going to be out of this race, will not reach the conclusion, won't even reach halfway. Glenn's going to get scored in 33rd, Andre in 32nd position. I believe scoring will indicate that on our ticker on this next lap by. So we'll have 31 drivers still remaining, and dependent on when they decide to turn out the lights there on that pace car, we're looking at a shootout here. It'll be less than 10 to go, and some drivers elected to come down pit road. Other drivers looking for those stage points. A number of them electing to stay out here, including Jeremy Jeffries, who, as we've documented, the past 2 weeks, first 2 races of the season, 0 in the stage points column. He wants some here tonight.
He's going to get them one way or the other. He's saying he has no, it's going to be another shootout. Hopefully a clean one straight through, and then, as you know, we continue going. We don't throw a caution flag at halfway. We just log those first 10 positions. If you're at the leader at halfway, you're getting 10 bonus points, and then 9, 8, 7 right down to 10th position, who gets 1.
Jeremy getting that win in the season opener, so he knows he's locked into the playoffs on wins. Just a speculation, if Jeremy doesn't have a win coming into this race, do you think he still plays this strategy with not having any stage points, or does he come to pit road to stay on the same fuel number as the 88?
Toss up there, because it also matters the points leader. So your overall position in the points, when we get to the playoffs, we've been awarding bonus points not just to race winners, but also to the regular season points leading champion. So it keeps, every point where you want to apply it. But they only had a few laps of fuel here, so you shouldn't be at too much of a deficit.
Interesting, you mentioned points leader, and one driver we have not mentioned at all tonight has been Jeff Supta. He has pretty much kept his number 11 at the back of the pack the entire evening. He's been able to stay out of trouble with all the incidents. You kind of feel like right now he's in preservation mode, and we'll maybe see him try and charge his way up here late in this one. As Jeremy Jeffries, Jeff Crivello, Jeffrey Elliott, they have all stayed out here, looking to garner some stage points. Josh Metallic, Colin Flick, And Kelly Causey also stayed out, but they can go a little bit further on fuel than the drivers in front of them. Grant Wesley, who was the first driver to come down pit road, will restart in 8th, with Greg Palmer and Denny Carroll the top 10. Green flag ready to come back out, 7 laps away from the stage. And we're already wrecking.
Didn't take long, and they're stacking up on the restart in the middle. It looks like the track is clogged near the start-finish line.
Started with Greg Palmer, I do believe. Terry Bombard as well. And with that massively tall pit wall, to your point, it may be wide and spacious here on the front straightaway, but you get a number of drivers spinning left and right. It doesn't take long for that avenue to get completely blockaded up. And now a number of drivers going to have bits and pieces of damage here from that one.
Yep, I think you called it. I'll wait till you get her queued up here, but looks like we had a checkup on the inside line, and that started there.
Now, we did get told in our chat, the 055 of Nick Gunther had no first gear. I think this happened behind him. I don't know if it was in relation to that or not. Let's see.
No, he was on the outside line.
Yep.
I think this starts with the 22.
Greg Palmer behind Kelly Causey. Oh, yep. No second gear. You could hear it.
Just let loose. You could just drop down, and that's unfortunate. Unfortunately, we can't predict those things, and there's just no place for those to go. And you saw what we referenced in practice, a little bit of a pogoing there between the 10, the 17, and the 62.
We'll get another look at it, and then we'll also go on board with Greg Palmer. I mean, you could hear it there with that first camera shot. Listen carefully. You'll just hear the rev as Greg tries to go to second gear, and it's not there. And as you said, it's so unpredictable, so you don't have time to relay the information back behind to everybody else. Hey, 22's lost a gear. We got to avoid him. No, everybody is all lined up, getting ready to push on that inside line in preparation for turn 1.
The boys back at the Sullins paint shop going to have a lot of work to do on that 38, especially. You put a couple more crimples in it on that one.
On board with the Hooters Chevrolet. Take a listen here from the roof cam.
Oh, that's a horrible feeling and sound.
Shifted up as quickly as he could to third gear, but by the time he did, he had the 10 of Terry Bombard into his back bumper. Chuck McClure was into the back of Terry, and it was just on from there. I'll tell you, did a heck of a job getting through that. Was the 51 of Bob LaChance. Watch this avoidance as he was restarting behind the 38 of Rodney Sullins. You talk about just barely finding a hole that your car is going to be able to fit through. I think he got bumped through the wreck. You saw the car jolt forward.
Took a shot from the left side a little bit, I think, too. But that's just great. You know, you could hear him check up. You could hear him working the brake and the throttle, trying to find a safe way to get through. So that's great driving by Bob. He's a quality driver. Wouldn't expect anything less.
So he'll pick up a couple of spots there, getting through that restart wreck. We'll definitely get back green before the stage completion. So we had a 9-lap shootout to the stage on the last restart. It's now going to be entering into the vicinity of probably 3-lap shootout, maybe 4 laps, depending on if the lights go out in the pace car this time. And Jeffries will continue to stay out along with Brian Schilling, looking for those valuable stage points. Just to remind everybody, we will not be here next Monday night, Memorial Day weekend, so the drivers will be off. We will resume the Barebones Racing Series 65th season in June, as we'll be at the Nashville Superspeedway, a racetrack that's called a Superspeedway in name only. It doesn't race like a Superspeedway. I guess it's the track length that classifies as a Superspeedway, but that racetrack, multi-groove, tire killer, We talked about how North Wilkesboro was going to be last week, and it did not disappoint in terms of all the tire strategy we saw. I think in 2 weeks' time, North Wilkesboro is going to be fun to see what the strategy is going to be. Do you want track position or do you want tires?
And stay out of that dust up by the wall there at Nashville. It'll get you, and you'll get stuck if you try to go too wide up there. There's a whole lot of marbles.
Also, as well, that those that tune into our Thursday night broadcast, we will not be here for the next 2 weeks. The 22nd and the 29th. We'll resume the coverage of the 65th season for the Talladega Challenge Series on June the 5th, and we'll, of course, recap everything that has occurred in those 2 previous races. We're thinking about, I was talking with our broadcast team, maybe broadcasting over those 2 races if we're able to get our hands on some replays, so that way that footage is still captured with commentary. So we'll see if we're able to do that here, and that we will have a little bit better of an idea of a recap when we come back here in June.
That's a neat idea, and we'll certainly have it for you if you want it. So we'll hook up on that. Yeah, I will be joining you remotely for the next 2 Barebones races after we return from the Memorial Day break.
Yes, sir. Got what I believe North Wilkesboro and Michigan after that. Then we go to Pocono, Atlanta, Rockingham, and Infineon. I mean, you talk about diversity in tracks here for this regular season. A little bit of everything for everyone.
Oh, that's going to be a great schedule. Yeah, we're doing, and it's Nashville, then Michigan, and Pocono, a different version than we're used to running on the Monday nights, but it's going to be a good one too. And Atlanta, no matter which version it is, it's always an exciting race. And then one of my personal favorites, The Rock, comes up after that.
You know, aside from Michigan, every single one of these racetracks I'm looking at, the thing that jumps out to me, tires. All of these racetracks, very abrasive on those Goodyears.
Pretty much. Looks like it's going to be 2 laps. 2 laps to the pay slot, the little pay slot. Not the pay window, but just the pay slot for halfway.
So our 5th restart of the evening. Of course, if a caution comes out before we get to the conclusion of the 30th lap, then the stage points would be awarded under yellow. And for Jeremy Jeffries, he's been able to keep that car out in front with the aid of that restart incident. Question is, can he keep them at bay for 6 more miles? Brian Schilling, who comes in this race 13th in points, that's another driver that could really benefit from some stage points here tonight. Jeffrey Elliott, 31st in the standings, so he's looking for some stage points, maybe a stage win. And Josh Metallic, he's been maybe one of the more efficient drivers here in the first 2 races in garnering stage points. That's why he's sitting only 4 points out of the points lead in second.
Yep, as we go green, and we've got our challenger points leader, Colin Flick, sitting there. He's going to take the restart here in 5th, right alongside Grant Wesley. And the green flag is out, 2 laps to go to halfway.
Greg Palmer is back on the racetrack. He did lose a lap here, though, under this caution period, so he'd be the only driver in the free pass position, as the other remaining 30 drivers are on the lead lap. Now it comes down to the pushing down the back straightaway. Who lines up better? Looks like maybe Metallic and Wesley lined up with Schilling a little bit better than that inside line. Schilling's going to reap the benefits down the back straightaway.
Bottom line has the numbers, but the top line is better organized at the moment. And now Jeffrey Elliott and Jeremy Jeffries are pulling a 2-car tandem at the head of the bottom line. They pulled a little away from Nick Gunther there.
Both got the apron just a little bit. Did the one in the 56 as we race off of turn 4, coming to the proverbial white flag here of the stage. Schilling still with the advantage. Metallic gonna maybe be clear for second, not quite. And look at that third lane down there on the bottom, right on that yellow line. That's Denny Carroll and Randy Waugh trying to make something happen to the inside of Colin Flick, and there's contact made.
Oh, very close going into one here, and the 41 of Denny Carroll straddling the apron, but they're able to keep it under control. But that's left Jeremy Jeffries and Jeffrey Elliott all by themselves up front. Meanwhile, Brian Schilling with Josh Metallic, Grant Wesley, Dave Milson, and Nick Gunther have got a 5-car draft pulling away, heading towards the pay window at the end of lap 30.
Top 4, now make it top 5, clearing that outside line. Gunther dives low. Wesley dives low, trying to make a last bid here for the stage win. Wesley's going to get alongside of Schilling, but will he have the momentum off of 4? Might be a photo finish here for the stage victory. Schilling, oh, Gunther going to make it 3. That's going to give it to Schilling. The momentum will go up to the top. Schilling will pick up the stage victory.
That's exciting and close. Looks like Grant Wesley got second, Nick Gunther third, Josh Vitalik picks up fourth, Jeffrey Elliott fifth, Jeremy Jeffries sixth, then Dave Melson, Denny Carroll, Randy Waugh, and just as we say it, Mr. McCarthy's going around.
Dennis McCarthy around off the nose of Colin Flick off of turn 2. Looks like he might have been the only one involved. Well, I say that. Bobby Farrell's down way on the apron. The 24, I think, restarted there on that 2 to go restart up in the top 10. I think he was 10th position. And as you said, he was able to nab himself a stage point there at the conclusion. Caution out for the 6th time here tonight.
His name, Dennis, was on my tongue as stating for 10th place just as he started to get spun there. And very unfortunate. He did get the 10th place. He did get the 1 bonus point.
Go back and take a look and see what happened to Dennis McCarthy. He may have, well, I was going to say he may have just done a loop around and continued on, but he was backwards against that outside wall for a good portion on the exit of 2. Here's a look at it. They had just taken the completion of the stage. They run through it. They don't have a caution thrown, and ooh, Flick was looking low there on McCarthy and then suddenly realized he was 4 wide with Kelly Causey. Tried to get up, give room to the 00, and he was already to the inside of the left rear of the 024.
Yep, he just caught the bumper of the 024 on his way back up, and around he went. Looks like Bobby Farrell, he did make it through that one without contact. Oh, no, never mind.
Got a bump from behind by Ron Hagelin, I believe.
I saw him pulling away from the scene. He got a good 360 and a little bit of damage again on the back end.
Ron got a pretty good hit there into McCarthy, and Jeff Crivello in the 36 also got a piece.
Might start to become a war of attrition, even with moderate damage here.
Focus on the 111 here. Take a look at the shot he took with the front end of his race car into McCarthy. Front bumper to front bumper contact. Maybe some contact for Jason Scheck, but not much.
Yeah, Bobby in the 92 checked up for the trouble ahead, and Ron was just right on his bumper pushing him, your typical super speedway.
So Jeff Supta, our points leader, stays out.
Now.
Didn't get any stage points there, though. Even though he came in as the points leader. I mean, now that we've got that stage out of the way, it's now in the past, and we look forward to the end of this race. Timing of this yellow, where does this get us to? Are we at 1 stop now?
Just doing that math as we speak here. So, we're taking here lap 33, so we're going to assume probably lap 35 we're going to go back to green. 25 laps to go, so we're 1 stop, and it's probably going to be, a can and a half at least.
Got Brian Lovell in our chat. How's it going, Brian? We're doing great.
Evening, Brian.
First race ever for the Barebones Racing Series here at Coca-Cola Super Speedway. Unfortunately, it will come to an early end for driver Tom Dixon. He has retired out of the race, now joining Andre Charest and Glenn Harris. Greg Palmer was the only driver a lap down, so he'll get the lucky dog under this caution, and we'll have our remaining 30 drivers all back on the lead lap.
I'm going to be optimistic here, and if we do get the green here, which it looks like we'll get it here at lap 35, that we'll be able to make it all the way 1 stop, and then the second stop will be a 1 can only stop. So that could open it up to possibly 2 tires at that point. Haven't been paying a lot of attention to what these guys have been doing on pit road with all the cautions, but it hasn't been too much of an issue without a long green run to see if anybody's trying to manage those.
It's a great point too, because I talk about how easy it is to get onto pit road here because you can carry a lot more speed than you maybe can at about a 25, 30 degree left-hand angle turn at a Daytona or a Talladega. Here you can almost get down off the bank and just have a straight shot for the entrance of pit road, but I saw a lot of drivers really smoking those front tires coming onto pit lane too. So you talk about, if we end up getting to the window where they can come to pit road and take on one can, you got to make sure do not slide those tires, because that could be pivotal into whether or not you're going to have to maybe take on some right sides or some left sides. And we've seen quite often at the super speedways, tires sometimes will cost you time, because there could be that mistake by a pit crew member having a little trouble getting a tire on or a tire off, an air wrench jammed or something like that. You do not want to have one of those costly mistakes.
No, if we get to the money stop, it's going to be interesting to watch. And yeah, if you try to lock them up too much, it seems to me, at least for me, it's always the left front that takes the brunt of the damage.
We're going to quickly look here at the 38 of Rodney Sullins. We got Al Sullins in our chat saying, from his vantage point, you can't tell, does Rodney have any fenders that aren't bent? And the thing of it is, that car looks relatively clean. But the problem is, a lot of the damage he got in that flip was to the hood and the roof. And that's going to hurt the car aerodynamically.
It is. His cars look good even with damage. We just got to say that. But with them bounding it out, it still looks great. But I've seen that thing got hit on every single side possible during the course of this race. And we're getting ready to see if we can hopefully avoid that again, because we're going green.
Rodney's going to restart up in the 11th position, but I've been seeing him on these restarts ducking out, letting drivers on by with that car not up to full song. Jeff Supta and Jeff Crivello get us back under the green, and we're already peaking 3 wide there. That was Jeffrey Elliott showing the nose just in between. Grant Wesley and Denny Carroll tucks back in line, and we'll be double file through 1 and 2.
Looks like both lines got a pretty decent start there. Again, the bottom line's got way more numbers.
That was Jason Scheck in the grass. He had just come off of pit road and might have spun it down there. Caution's actually going to come out for that, I believe.
It is out. The caution is out. And I did notice that in practice. Getting off pit road here is a little treacherous. The merge point allows you to go up in between 1 and 2, but in the driver's meeting, they told you they want you to carry it all the way around to the back stretch. But yeah, it looks like Jason ran into a little trouble getting off pit road there.
I saw him on pit lane recycling there, trying to find Rodney Sullins, getting ready to come to the green. He had just left pit road prior to the drivers getting the green for the restart. And to your point, I don't know if he came back up onto the racetrack. That's going to be the interesting thing there. The leaders, when they bypassed him, he was down into the grass.
And he requested a tow right away, so it's kind of, I don't see any other reason for the caution, but that should not have brought one out.
95 of Colin Flick actually called a tow to pit road as well. Did he have, wait, was it not for Scheck? Did the 95 blow up? We'll focus here on the 81 because he was the original suspicion. What if the 95 might have maybe blown up and we might have had a debris yellow? It might have had nothing to do with Scheck.
I'm looking at that right now. He's on the backstretch. And yep, abrupt loss of speed. That could in fact be what happened.
So here's Scheck coming off of turn 2. Leaders are coming up and you see the back end start sliding. He gets into the grass. He's able to hang on to it there. But then he ends up calling the tow back to pit lane. We'll now focus on that 95 of Colin Flick.
I think we're right on both accounts, Seth. I'm hearing that both the 81 of Jason Scheck and the 95 of our challenger point leader, Colin Flick, both blew up and grenaded their motors on that.
Wow.
Jason just coming off pit road, too. That's tragic.
Right there, sudden loss of speed for the 95. Tries to get out of the way. Don't see any visible smoke out of that Dodge Charger, but could have been that they would have still counted there for a debris caution, the on-track officials. Well, that's a tough break there for both Colin Flick and Jason Scheck. We'll normally see at a super speedway, we'll see one random blow up, but very rarely do we see two of them, and in such quick succession. Now, Flick and Sheck have neither retired out of the race officially. So they're trying to see if whatever the problem was, if it can be fixed and they can get back out there. Flick is currently one lap down. Sheck is -2. We'll keep you updated if they're able to get back out onto the racetrack or not. A few drivers electing to stay out here under this caution as most of the field came down pit road, and that puts a couple of new faces up here towards the front. We saw Bob LaChance do a great job of working his way through that restart wreck. He's currently going to restart in 6th. Dave Melson, who's had a great start to the season right now, going to be 7th. And Billy Elliser, he started shotgun on the field, that Johnny Benson throwback. First time we've seen him up here inside of the top 10 making an emergence late.
It's a sharp-looking Johnny Benson throwback for sure. And looks like the 95 is reported with a valve issue. He is done for the night.
Top break there for Colin Flick. So looking at this, would that put, I believe, Billy Elliser currently in the lead for the Challenger drivers?
It looks like that's exactly right. And Jason Sheck is finished with his toe. He has a piston.
So two different engine issues for those two drivers.
Fuel thoughts are going in mine. I noticed a couple cars. Jeff Supta, Greg Palmer. It looks like Dennis McCarthy ducked onto pit road there, topping off.
No Doug Cady in the field here tonight. He was the Challenger winner from the opener. Colin Flick, as we documented, was the Challenger winner from last week at North Wilkesboro. So while we've got the chance for a third overall different winner here in the first 3 races, same's going to be said guaranteed here on the Challenger side, as last week's winner and 2 weeks ago not in the field. So we'll have to see who that third different Challenger winner is going to be. And we ended up seeing as well, Colin Flick was, because of being the defending Challenger champion, he was eligible for this past year's Speedway All-Star race. That's something else for these drivers to be able to fight for that are battling for that Challenger championship, because you win that title and you're locked into the All-Star race. You don't have to race your win through the Open.
That's exactly right. And it doesn't look like Glenn Harris will be your Challenger winner tonight. He's already taken that to the hauler for the night. Dave Robbins isn't here tonight. So Bobby Farrell, who's seen his share of troubles, he's in prime position. And Cyber Jones is also there along with Mr. Ellisor. And say we're getting ready to go green, Seth.
Yeah, Cy Jones was, he got a piece of one of the incidents earlier on, but that car appears to still be up to speed. And about 3 incidents for Bobby Farrell, but that car still seems to also be competitive, so it's anybody's game still between those 3. Denny Carroll inherits the race lead here. First time that he's had that Crown Royal Chevrolet out and in the wind. He'll have Brian Schilling alongside of him on the front row with Jeffrey Elliott, Frank Rivard, Jeremy Jeffries, Bob LaChance, the first 3 rows here. Getting ready to go back green as we were approaching 20 laps remaining here tonight at Coca-Cola Superspeedway.
It's going to take more fuel than you have now to make it to the end, but let's see if we can get to that point as we go under green. 2 lines forming and already 3 wide. Billy Ellisor's looking to go in the middle.
Tried to fill a gap there between Melson and Gunther. That closed up. Then Grant Wesley was to his outside. Now Elliser will tuck in behind driver 88. Grant's led the most laps so far here tonight. 13 circuits out in front, trying to close out the deal. As trying to get that second line going there. Schilling trying to find some help. Here comes Rivard, here comes LaChance, here comes Wesley.
As we start getting close to the pay window being open, we're going to start to see if these guys want to push a little harder than they were pushing before, but they're going to have to keep even in the turns so we can keep the green flag out. Looks like Denny Carroll and Jeffrey Elliott have got a good connection going.
We've had 7 yellows so far here tonight. Something that we normally don't talk about a lot at super speedways is the undercut, but I almost wonder, with this being 3 miles in length, if that's something drivers could be considering if we see the yellow or time or 2 before the conclusion. Would there be, do you think, a target lap these drivers would get to where they might think the window is open to make it the rest of the way? They might come down pit road there, maybe catch a caution at the right time, and then suddenly they stay on the lead lap and cycle their way up to the front in the closing stages.
Well, it's anywhere after lap 45 would be when the window's open, but with the rate the caution flag's been flying tonight, I wouldn't want to be that guy going in and going a lap down, because I think you still will go a lap down even with the length of this track.
We haven't talked much about it in the past because we haven't had to, but Jason Scheck brings back saying that's the last time that he leases an engine from Schilling Motorsports.
Yeah, Schilling Motors, they're trying to improve their reputation of late, but I don't know. It's not looking so good tonight. 2 and 2 on the same one restart. We got a heck of a line forming on the bottom. There's Chuck McClure ducking out to the inside Frank Rivard. Looks like Dante Ricci's going to give him some help. And Frank's going to be the odd man out there, and he's going to look to pick up the high line.
McClure, I think he clipped that apron with the left rear, got the car snappy loose, and you see the ground that he lost to Dante Ricci as a result. Dante, he's picked up that Le Mans machine, that throwback for Josh Metallic. They're going to now work with Randy Waugh to the inside of Dave Melson. So it looks like a lot of drivers, they're wanting to jump up to that second groove, but there's not many takers, and everybody that's going up there, they're going to the back. They're not going forward.
It's an express train to the rear right now. They are stacked up on the bottom, and if they can get organized, I think we can get 2 lines going. Now it looks like we've got about a 50-50 split, but it's going to take quite a bit for that top line now to overtake the bottom.
Denny Carroll still continuing to lead. Looks like the first 7 cars going to be single file. Little peek there by the Spider-Man Chevrolet of Ron Lucet, but he'll tuck back in line.
Looking like the bulk of them have tucked back in line now. Brian Schilling and Grant Wesley are trying to bring up the outside line, but that's coming from about 11th place forward.
Josh Metallic and Dante Ricci, they got a nice run there off of 2, swung it wide, tried to get to the right rear quarter panel of Randy Waugh. It's going to cost them. Nobody else going up there, just the 2.
No help yet. Now they're going to be looking for a place to drop in line unless somebody else jumps up behind them and starts giving them some numbers. May be too early for that yet.
Not much space down there on the inside line. They're going to get a little bit of help here from another tandem of Schilling and Wesley. You talked about the fact that with this setup, the suck-up is huge. The ability to get up to the back bumper of somebody, and when you're a driver and you've got that kind of momentum, the first instinct is to try and take it somewhere here. But I think for a couple of these drivers, you said maybe a little too soon. Other drivers seeing that saying, we want to at least maybe get to that fuel window and prepare ourselves for pit stops. We're not necessarily in the mindset right now of making these aggressive moves up in that second lane. We're just going to hug that yellow line for as long as we can.
It's so true. You get the momentum, you want to take it, and Josh Metallic is one. He says, "Why are we running around in line? We let's mix this up." And he takes it out there because you get such a great run. And they're actually starting to get quite organized, the 4 of them. That's 4 quality drafters with the 5th one coming in to connect with them now on that high line. So maybe they can start, by organization's ways, start making some headway up here. But if I'm sitting, say, Jeremy Jeffries, Randy Waugh, Chuck McClure, I just watched what happened to those guys. I'm not so upset being in 4th or 5th place right now.
Jeff Supta has jumped up to that outside line now. Frank Rivard, John Godfrey, Dave Melson now goes up behind the 35. Nick Gunther will now move up with them.
They're moving now, slowly but surely. They've pulled even with Jim Glaude.
And the more progress they make, the more of those drivers up in the top 6 will notice that, and they may jump up there as well.
Also notice they seem to be giving plenty of room to that inside line as they're going by. They're not binding it up, and just it seems to be rolling pretty good from it. The angle that they're taking right now looks like Ronald Lucier looks to pop up in front of that line, and now we're 3 wide.
Too much momentum there. Gunther going to jump to the outside, puts Lucet in the middle. Lucet will probably try and tuck back down in behind the 72 of Jim Glaude. That's going to stall out the momentum of that second lane, at least for a moment. They're going to have to try and rebind it up again, try and get the line all nose to tail. That is a tight draft down the back straightaway for them. I can't tell if there's physical contact being made as Gloud gets the apron again. Josh Metallic just had flashbacks from earlier on as it was his left rear the 72 got into earlier on in this race.
Same place. That was deja vu all over
Woo.
again for Josh. I saw that happen right before my eyes. I tell you, they've been doing a good job here, like you said, staying organized. Just curious to see. We're right now in the pay window, so.
Look at the shove right there at 55. Got really out of shape as Dante with a shove to Metallic with a shove to Gunther. You saw Gunther kind of pull down a little bit there, try to get a little sniff of draft off of Terry Bombard, then pulled up to drag that second lane once again.
It's a great strategy, and with the runs you get here, when somebody pulls up in front of your line, it's the closing rate is significant here in the draft. So Nick earlier probably didn't want to put the bumper to somebody when Ron Lucier popped up there, and it was probably the safer move to try to go 3 wide than rather than give him a pretty good shot right before we get to the turn.
Saw the 84 of Dante Ricky, third car on that outside line, squirrely there off the corner. That's one of the tougher things about Coca-Cola Superspeedway as well. You can see how tight the line is down these straightaways, but it is really tough to keep that draft as tight as possible here through the corners because that second car wants to push up a little bit, that third car wants to push up a little bit, and you're literally trying to gather the car up, point it straight again off of 2, and specifically more so off of 4. That's why we saw that 84 a little left, right off of turn 4, trying to make sure that he kept his front bumper completely leveled, completely aligned with the back bumper of the 39.
I tell you, the first 4 on that outside line are still, they give a little here at the entrance of the turn, but they are so tight together on the straightaways.
Meanwhile, Denny Carroll continuing to show the way. Chuck McClure, he's trying to go somewhere. He's kept last 3 or 4 laps. He's trying to shade low underneath of Randy Waugh off of turn 4. Just doesn't have the run, doesn't have enough momentum to get to the left rear quarter panel, but he's trying to mix things up with the top 4.
Curious to see now. We are well within the pit window when some of these guys come. And again, you're going to need friends. If you're going to try to come early, you're going to need, 3, 4 of your buddies to come with you, as we see, because four neatly organized cars are not getting the job done.
We, of course, saw the engine failure for Jason Scheck, so that doesn't necessarily play into him struggling down there on the apron. I think he was trying to get down off the apron into the grass to avoid a yellow flag coming out, but you talked about how sketchy this pit road exit is going to be. You want to come down with friends, but you also want to make sure that when you leave, they're there with you and not spinning around on the apron of 1 and 2.
Oh, for sure. And they lost one now off the high line.
Denny Carroll crossing the line right there. That was his 14th lap led of the evening. That now puts him at the top of the statistics for laps led tonight. Takes the proverbial bonus point away from Grant Wesley, who had led 13 laps previously. And we do have word that Greg Palmer, who we saw have that issue where he lost second gear earlier on, he has taken his car to the garage area gearbox issue for the 22. So a half dozen drivers now behind the wall, 27 drivers still left as we approach the start-finish line, coming to 10 laps to go.
10 more opportunities to lead a lap right now. And just as we say that, Jeffrey Elliott's taking a look all by himself to the outside. Almost looks like he's pulling out a line.
Yep, I think you're exactly right. Trying to drop to the back there. Might be preparing for some green flag pit stops with driver 56. We did, remember, have a couple of drivers who did stay out under the last yellows, so they would have to pit a little bit sooner than some of the others that pit under caution number 7. Jeffrey Elliott, I believe, is one of those drivers.
I think you are correct.
Looks like that second lane, they've lost their numbers now. Only 3 up there with Gunther, Metallic, and Ricky. Most everybody has now migrated to the bottom, more than likely in preparation for green flag pit stops.
Yep, I'm starting to hear some whispers within the next 2 laps. They're going to start looking to go down.
Bob LaChance back there hitting pit road by his lonesome.
So it's going to be one can of fuel here, Seth, is what they're going to be looking at. I'm almost certain of that. The question is, like you said earlier, depending on how you approach pit road, we're getting to see these green flag stops, hopefully. Will you want to take tires? 2-4. Somebody's looking off here. Who's that first one ducking on?
Jeffrey Elliott and Bob LaChance. Both on pit lane.
Oh,
Oh,
trouble on
Billy
the back
Elliser
stretch.
off the nose of Grant Wesley. No caution.
Yet.
That was down underneath the yellow line. That Johnny Benson throwback, nose first against the inside wall. We stay green.
Always problematic when a yellow comes out during green flag pit stops. Looks like we're not going to have that case this time, but these guys are going to be coming soon. As a matter of fact, they're coming right now.
Bunch of them. They've never hot pitted here at this racetrack. How will they do? Oh, look out! Supta got hit from behind there by Dave Melson. Chuck McClure spins it around as I believe he locked up that left rear.
Yep, Chuck McClure has definitely got some issues there getting back sorted out.
Whoa. Frank Rivard right across the nose there of Dave Melson. This is the money stop, as you said. We're in the window to make it the rest of the way. You cannot afford a mistake, and we've already seen a couple of drivers right there on entry. I'd be curious to see about that 11 getting bumped, if that might have shot him over the 65-mile-per-hour limit.
It's quite possible. He had popped back. We'll see how they get going.
Terry Bombard now inherits the race lead. Looks like he's making the dive this time. Just about everybody. I think John Godfrey, Jeff Crivello, the only two that stayed out. We've got about 8 drivers here. They're all going to make it onto pit road safely. That for Brian Schilling looked a little snappy loose under braking. Same for Josh Metallic.
They really used the entire width of that wide pit road entry. They did a great job.
Some almost to the pit wall. Some of them almost to that attenuator wall as well. As Jeremy Jeffries of his group, looks like he's going to come off of pit road, the leader. Denny Carroll, who was the leader when the pit stops began, now going to be second. Jim Glaude going to be behind them in third with Frank Rivard. Randy Waugh, Jeff Supta, 21 is back in. This is obviously unscheduled. One would have to assume potential speeding penalty for Randy Waugh. Costly mistake here with less than 10 to go.
Now, if Jim Glaude can settle in with these front 4, the question is, will they be able to draft up and get into one big pack again, or are we going to see a separation? They're overtaking the last run that pitted, then Grant Wesley's pushing up the group with Kelly Causey behind.
Caution! Yellow flag waves after the pit stop cycle was complete. We are in race back, so that's why we are staying on the one of Jeremy Jeffries, seeing if he'll be the leader when they come back to the yellow. It's got Josh Metallic, Dante Ricky just up ahead here. This is going to be close to the line as to who's going to be the leader under this restart. Dante moving up to block. Jeremy's going to shoot the middle between Dante and Terry, and it's going to work for him as he's going to lead us back here to the caution. And scoring shows him 6th. Are these drivers the leaders?
That was not the race back for the lead. I'm showing Jeff Crivello is not pitted yet. Same with Dennis McCarthy.
Yep, you're
Bobby
right.
Farrell, they are being scored the leaders right now. They'll have to come in this time by with under caution, but they're scored the lead at the moment.
So this would cycle Jeremy Jeffries to the lead when they pit, but there is the actual race leader that picked up the caution, the Bazooka Chevrolet of Jeff Crivello. And this restart, when we get it here, we're going to be in 2 to 3 lap territory.
I tell you, that racing back that we just saw, Seth, almost looked like the kind of racing I was expecting to see all night. Now these guys got a taste of that. There's very few laps left in the race. If they fan out, they can get some crazy runs going and see a lot of position swapping going on.
So now the big question is, what brought out the yellow? Because I didn't see any smoke lingering, no skid marks from any new incident. Maybe it might have been that 1 and 2 you were talking about. Let's see if anyone had an issue there. Looking at the timing that the yellow flag flew. We're going to try and use the pace car to time it here. Here we go. Oh, Bob Dixon, 143. Yep, exactly what you were talking about. That exit off of 2, that transition from the flat apron to the banking, and watch right here. Car bottoms out, gets loose, round it goes.
Yep, just got stuck on that transition. That's all it took.
Bob Dixon had just made his pit stop, was returning to the track. My data is just now filing with drivers that were hit with black flag penalties. We saw Randy Waugh come into pit road. That was indeed a black flag for him, as, ooh, the 92 might be running out.
It appears that way. He's going to have to call a tow truck.
We talked about going that 1 lap too far, a 3-mile racetrack here at Coca-Cola Superspeedway. You run out of fuel here, you may not be able to coast back around to pit road. But Randy Waugh did come down. He served his penalty. He and Billy Elliser, 1 lap down after that cycle, would get the free pass. I'm also being shown the 10 of Terry Bombard was hit with a black flag penalty. He's currently scored in the 6th position. He will have to come down pit road and EOL to get that cleared. So tough break there, as he would have cycled around with some pretty good track position for this final restart, but now he's going to be starting tail end of the field. Pretty much effectively takes him out of the running for the checkered flag.
We'll have to see if he has to go down this time, if there was something that they had messed up there. So we'll have to find out. Looks like we're going to get a 3-lap shootout.
Now, John Godfrey had just completed his pit stop when that caution came out. And it looks like, with the timing of the yellow, he crossed the start-finish line to take the caution. See, where did he qualify? 34th. So he would have had a stall behind the start-finish line. Caution comes out. He may have crossed the line on pit road to pick up the yellow and actually ends up being the race leader here on this final restart.
I think you're right, and I think we're about to find that out. And Terry Bombard is coming to pit road.
Saw Billy Elliser going around to get his lap back. We're waiting on the 21 of Randy Waugh. Rodney Sullins has retired out of the race. We have had a plethora of reasons for drivers retiring out of the race. Wheel problem for Andre Charest, engine piston for Jason Scheck, engine valve for Colin Flick, engine gearbox for Greg Palmer, and now Rodney Sullins, no fuel in the 38. So another driver like Bobby Farrell that was not able to make it that extra lap of pacing back to pit road to his pit stall.
It's a long way around here for sure, and we mentioned that earlier. So, and John Godfrey is scored as your leader, so he and Jeremy Jeffries will take us to the green for what's going to turn out to be a 2-lap run to the end. So if the caution comes out, we will be racing back, and that will be it.
John Godfrey and the 7-Eleven machine, 27th in points. We talked about how this could be a wild card race. Drivers that we don't normally see up in the top 10 week after week. Drivers that may not even be in the top 15 in the stands after the first 2 races. An opportunity to maybe win their way into a playoff spot. Green-white checkered, so we'll stay with the leaders. If trouble breaks out on this 2-to-go lap, we will watch them race back to the proverbial checkers under the caution. Of course, if they get to the white flag, we will stay here with the leaders as well. Any incidents during this green-white checkered, we'll look at either during the final lap here or post-race, as we're going to find out who's going to get that 3rd checkered flag in the season. Jeremy Jeffries up here on the outside of the front row looking for 2 wins in the last 3 weeks. Denny Carroll, who's led the most laps, in 3rd. Dante Ricky up here in the 4th position with Frank Rivard, Josh Metallic, Jeff Supta, Jim Glaude, Kelly Causey now in the top 10 and 9th with Grant Wesley in 10th. Who's going to be the first one back to the checkered flag? Here we go. Green-white checkered at Coca-Cola.
I think we're about to see how wide this track can really get, and I think we're going to see it quick if they're going to get on the move. Randy Waugh looking to the inside.
Good pushes on both the inside and outside line. Dead even going into 1. Inside should get the momentum here. Shorter way around the racetrack through 1 and 2. But then the momentum will shift to the middle off the corner down the backstretch.
Everybody behaving themselves down the backstretch so far. Two distinct lines again. White flag next time by. Who's going to step out of line first? There's a lot of bumping going on right around Jim Gloud and Grant Wesley there, so a lot of cars shifting around.
Near bumper grab there around the 7th spot. Now Jeffries clear from the top to the bottom. Going to cover John Godfrey. He will lead us around out of turn number 4. Here come 2, maybe 3 lines to his outside, to his inside. We'll see the white flag this time by.
I see Terry Bombard spun to the inside.
Caution!
Out.
Did they take it is the question.
There was one car, the 10 of Terry Bombard, I saw was spinning, but it looked like he tried to shoot right down pit road, but it looks like that may have been enough to bring out the caution, and the pace car is out.
Yes, it is. And that's going to end this race under yellow, and Jeremy Jeffries, first one back to the start finish line, is going to pick up his 2nd win on the season. Didn't take long for a multi-time winner. They're waiting on that Toyota Camry pace car back there to pick them up before Jeremy will cross the start-finish line to receive the checkered flag. Godfrey, 77 1/1000ths of a second short of the victory as he'll bring it home in the 2nd position. And Dante Ricky, who I feel like he and Josh Metallic had something cooking on that top side. If they'd had those extra 3 miles, might have had something to say about this checkered flag. He's going to complete the podium.
Yeah, for the 2nd week in a row, we're going to end this thing under yellow. And it looked like Jeremy was going to do his best blocking of both lines, but we have one more lap that we did not get to see.
Jeremy Jeffries, a former Talladega Challenge Series champion, and now the first 2-time winner here in Season 65 of the Barebones Racing Series, and puts together a complete race here tonight. Got stage points and gets the victory as he's going to come to the line. Coca-Cola Speedway, the debut race belongs to driver number 1 as Jeremy Jeffries picks up the victory here at the Coca-Cola Superspeedway, win number 2 on the season.
Great finish for John Godfrey. He's going to bring it home in 2nd. Dante Ricky is going to see it in 3rd. Denny Carroll, who led a whole lot of laps tonight, in 4th. Josh Metallic, another solid finish, top 5. He'll bring it home in 5th. Frank Rivard in 6th. Mr. Jim Gloud's going to bring that home 7th. Jeff Supta, your point leader coming into tonight, will be 8th. Grant Wesley bringing it home in 9th position, and rounding out the top 10 tonight will be the 00 of Kelly Causey.
Your top 4 in the standings, as you alluded to there, all finishing in the top 9. The points were close between them coming into this one. I feel like they're going to be even closer when we get to Nashville Superspeedway in a couple of weeks.
Very much looking forward to seeing what we do at Nashville. Exciting race tonight. You know, first experience for this track. I think that the guys got a taste of what we could do. I wouldn't be surprised if we see them back here again when the schedule rolls around.
You know, we've been talking about it here the last couple of weeks, the growing pains on Thursday nights with the new mod. Little growing pains here tonight with the new track, trying to get familiar with the do's and don'ts. 9 cautions here tonight, but the green flag laps we had, especially there in the closing stages, they were nail biters. And Jeremy Jeffries now going to burn it down here right on that Coca-Cola Racing family logo. So he picks up his 2nd checkered flag of season 65. Well, Jeff took us down through our top 10. We'll now show you the full finishing results from this evening. Dave Melson just outside the top 10. Looking for a decent points day here in this one. Ronald Lucey, Brian Schilling, Nick Gunther, and Chuck McClure. The rest of the top 15. Jeffrey Elliott, Cy Jones, Bob LaChance, Dennis McCarthy, and Ron Hagelin. The top 20. Double checking here. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I think, is it Cy? 17th? That was able to nab the Challenger win tonight?
Unofficially, actually, I've shown Kelly Causey, who finished home in 10th, is probably going to be your Challenger.
Ah, okay. Causey, who we really didn't see much of beginning, middle portion of this race, gets up there when it matters the most, netting that top 10. See the drivers that did not reach the conclusion. Terry Bombard involved in that last incident that brought out the race-ending yellow. Jeff Crivello, Rodney Sullins, Greg Palmer, Colin Flick, Jason Scheck, Tom Dixon, Andre Charest, and Glenn Harris. They will all look to rebound next week. Maybe the biggest hit of the drivers that are up there in the point stands would have to be Rodney Sullins. Back-to-back poor points paying races for him. We documented last week, finished outside of the top 15, fell to 10th in points, and now the DNF going to more than likely drop him out of a current playoff position. And Colin Flick finishing out of the race as well. That will open the door wide open maybe on the Challenger Championship side heading into Nashville Super Speedway.
I agree. We highlighted that in the pre-race. You could have big gain or big trouble here, and we've had a few drivers have the big trouble side, and a couple drivers had the big grades. Gains. Good finish there for Frank Rivard, Jim Glaude, certainly for John Godfrey and Dante Ricky, bringing it home second and third. So that'll be good points for them.
Well, let's see as we head into our FRN post-race wind down if we can dial up some of our top finishers here tonight. Let's kick things off with the driver that finishes third place, the Wawa Nissan 84 of Dante Ricky.
I'll sleep a little bit.
Hey Dante, it's Sean Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
Oh boy, I don't know if you heard me say I was falling asleep.
Don't fall asleep on us, Dante. We gotta.
Oh, it's okay.
We gotta know on that coming to that final lap there. If the caution didn't come out, you and the 39, you were hooked up pretty well. Had some good momentum down the front straightaway. If you had that extra lap, those extra 3 miles, did you have something there to maybe be able to snipe this win away from the one?
Well, I'll tell you, this is a traditional track. We've run this for a long, long time. We don't run it often, but, I'm familiar with the Coca-Cola track and its origin back in NASCAR 2002 as a night track with the construction on the backstretch and the modern day iRacing Super Speedway and how it's evolved over the years. And it's a staple. Everybody knows how to drive it, but it's so crazy. The cars get real light going down in the corner. It's really difficult to keep a good handle, keep a good line. You adjust your timing, you delay your wheel actions. You actually, I take it back, you do it a little bit early to react so that the car can go in the corner faster. And, putting this all together, it seemed like some of the drivers had a little bit of difficulty tonight. And it was still exciting, I'm sure, to watch. But what I would have liked to see, a little bit more of an outside or middle lane. When we went 3 wide, that third lane came, but the problem was there's so much space on the bottom, it just kind of brings back the old Talladega syndrome. The concern was when we made our final pit stops, I did not want to pit with that first group because the people who pit around me were all pitting in the first group, and I wasn't willing enough to come in earlier. Nobody was. Then we got on the racetrack, and me, Josh, Schilling, a bunch of us were all in line. I wanted the best entry track position that I could. I hate that we kind of didn't organize. I went by Josh coming into pits, but it was for a good purpose. I want to come in a good spot, come out in a good spot, and people are going to dilly-dally or lollygag up top, and it's not necessarily anybody I've named. It's just the way it's set up. I'm going to go to the bottom and try and get a better pit strategy. Problem was, coming out of the pits, caution comes out right there. So, unfortunately, the timing of that second to last caution before the last caution was not in my favor. I would have liked to draft up to the lead pack, Denny and Jeremy, and have a little bit more of a green flag finish. So my advice is this. Okay, you saw how close that was coming on the race back. I'll just put it this way. Let's say I am able to hold Jeremy off. I'm pretty sure I would not have won the race if I had restarted on the outside of Godfrey. Pretty sure about that. I think that Jeremy had the right strategy call. I think he had the right timing. I think that it was his race to win, basically. So that's my logic here.
I got one for you, Dante.
Hi, Sean.
How are you, sir?
Good. A little tired, but everything is fine.
I hear that. So did you feel at some point that you should have gone 3-4 wide? Because it seemed like when we were racing back to that one caution with the under 15 to go, you guys fanned out 3 wide for sure. A couple guys looking 4 wide, racing back to the caution, and I saw some, 2-car tandems and guys making some progress.
Yes, I had a few opportunities to push either three wide bottom or three wide middle. The concern I have is catching that outside line by surprise going in the corner. And I will tell you that a three wide middle move, if you're in the middle of the back of the pack, it will work if you get somebody up behind you to go into that corner entry and follow you. If you've got two cars, maybe are a little bit damaged, or you're trying to work with them for a few laps and you realize, the checkups are just coming in. I need to try a different line. There were times that myself and Josh would talk about, let's try to go to the outside. And sure enough, that worked early in the, actually more like late in the race when me, Josh, Schilling, and I think Grant Wesley was also hooked to the back. That went very well. The problem was the four of us together made so much more ground up top than if it had only been three cars. So the outside line, it needs a little bit more help and support, but we're making progress. We're making good moves. I think that the three wide would have been beneficial way up high as long as nobody closes off the bottom. It's really the lead car that has everything to gain, and the pushers have only little to gain, and unfortunately, they could lose a lot too.
Dante, you came into this race 11th in points after the first two races, and with it being a super speedway, big field here tonight, a lot of points on the table, and with the points as close as they are, being this early on in the season, how much did you have this race circled as go out there, if not get a checkered flag, at least finish really well, garner a lot of points here with bringing it home inside of the top three? This is going to obviously move you up further in the top 12, give you a nice cushion back to that 12th in the standings cut line.
Yeah, we didn't get very good stage points tonight, but I will say this. Anytime you have a super speedway large track, I'm circling it with the opportunity for a victory lane trip. There's no question about that. The concern I have, though, being this racetrack and how sketchy the racing is, I was very worried about going to the outside because of the crash risk. And I think that kind of goes back to Sean's question a little bit. I wanted to wait until a later part of the race to make those risks up top where I was comfortable with the drivers both in front of me on the inside and behind me and in front of me on the outside too. The crash risk and the unpredictability here is real. Okay, you can be innocent bystander and just be wiped out and flipping over 1,000 times in the catch fence. And I think that's why this is such an unpredictable track, but a fun one too. And I enjoy coming here. It's just I wish that we had a little more lane. And I think that the sister track Coke Zero is also a really really good option. The one with the backstretch dog leg and the pit road entrance and exit bankings, which honestly are probably a little better.
Yeah, I won't say a thing against Coke Zero Super Speedway. That track is a lot of fun. First time that I've ever seen drivers racing online, at least on a broadcast here on FRN at this racetrack, and it was a lot of fun to watch you guys slice and dice your way through, try and pick what was going to be the best line, get yourselves positioned for that final green-white checkered. Bring it home on the podium in the third position. Going to garner some good points with that finishing result. Dante, congratulations on the job well done, bringing that thing home in one piece. Would have loved to have seen what you could have potentially done if we had finished this thing under green, but nonetheless, we'll give you the opportunity here now for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Yes, number one, I want to thank Mr. Sean Prime and Mr. Seth Cole. You guys putting this broadcast on, doing an outstanding job. Sorry, my answers are cookbook. I've been up since 3:30 in the morning, and it was fun to the very last minute. It's just I wish I could have a little more energy about a third place finish tonight. It's a big deal for me to be able to get back into a position where I can try to punch my way into the chase. That's the first thing. Second, shout out. I'm going to really You're going to hear from him here in a second. John Godfrey, a second place run for him. Congratulations, John. That is outstanding tonight. And from the bottom of my heart, you deserve a race win too. And I know he's been going through a whole lot and just trying to get some good finishes. And for him to be able to stay out of trouble and come out runner up is outstanding. I'm really happy for that. I want to congratulate Jeremy as well and the Oreo car. He just had the strategy perfect tonight, and all of my friends and family and mom, dad, brother, sister, everyone who is cheering me on from time to time, and the entire weather team here in Charleston. And just big thanks to Bones and Prime and everyone who puts the league on here at RTG. Greatest place to race. Thank you, guys.
Well, appreciate it, Dante. This guy next to me here is the pro. He's a consummate professional. I'm just trying to find my way through here. I'm doing the best I can, guys. I know can't please everybody out there, but just trying to do a nice thing for the guys that bust their asses here to make such a great racing series all these years. And you're a big part of it, sir. So hope
Yes,
you get
thank you.
to back to weather watching. I hear the Midwest is rocking and rolling again tonight, so I'm sure
It
you've got
is.
not much sleep in your future.
Nope, it's coming my way, so I'm going to be up early again tomorrow looking at this. So thank you, Sean. Appreciate you. Thank you, Seth.
Absolutely. We'll let you get some rest here. Dante Ricky, hard fought third place here tonight at Coca-Cola Super Speedway. Congratulations once again. Enjoy the off week, and we'll see you back for Nashville Super Speedway in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you, everyone.
See if we can get a hold of the driver that brought it home second place here tonight, his best finish of the season, John Godfrey.
User was moved to
Hey,
your
John,
channel.
it's Sean and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I copy you guys.
We talk so much about the different aspects of super speedway racing, and sometimes we get treated to drivers reaping the benefits of the timing of the caution. You're on pit road making your final green flag pit stop, the caution comes out, your stall's behind the start finish line, and you cross the start finish line on pit road as the leader, and you're the one bringing us the green on that final green-white checkered. A great call for you on terms of strategy. What little more did you need to keep them at bay there? Because it kind of looked like the plan A was just hug that yellow line, but did you consider maybe moving up there once you got clear of the one there going through the center of 1 and 2, or were you fully committed to the bottom?
No, I was going to keep it right on the bottom, and I had some help promised from Denny Carroll in the 41. Shout out to him. I appreciate the help. But I got a little dinged up early in the race, and I think that might have been part of the difference there too. Just down a little bit on speed as a leader. 99 times out of 100, if there's a pit decision to be made, my crew chief will find a way to screw it up. But tonight he got lucky, and I guess I was feeling that way when everybody else peeled off, and I was the lone car to do that one extra lap. I thought, here we go again. But now he got lucky. I think he'll keep him around for another week at least.
I love it. That's great, John. That's funny and a popular win for sure. I've been hearing a lot about it. Yeah, this game gives, it takes, and you were the beneficiary there. We saw you come out. We weren't sure right away. It's like John Godfrey, and then you know what? Seth's called it. It says when we come around, yep, he's going to be scored the leader. And do you think if we saw that last green flag lap, what do you think would have happened?
Oh, gosh, I was getting a great push from Denny. I don't know. But like I said, I think the difference might have been that damage. I just wasn't going to be fast enough as a leader, I think. But I'll take second,
Yeah,
So
first.
it was.
Oh, go ahead, Sean.
No, I was just to say it was a great run. I noticed that at Tally in week one. That if you've got the right person behind you in front of you, even with damage, you can really make some hay. But once you get bold and you put it out in the clean air, it shows the truth.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep. But yeah, it's been such a rough couple of seasons. I'll take a second and be happy with that.
Great run. Go ahead.
Thank
Seth.
you.
Yeah, and obviously the last couple of weeks here as well to kick off season 65 have been a bit of a struggle for the 7-11. Do you think getting the second place here tonight is just the springboard you need in terms of momentum to make a deep run here for a playoff spot now down this home stretch after we get done with this Memorial Day weekend off week?
Oh gosh, I hope so, Seth. Yeah, it's just what we need to turn things around and get some momentum going in our direction finally.
Well, we look forward to seeing if indeed that is going to be the case. Best finish of the season by far here, runner-up at Coca-Cola Super Speedway. Congratulations on the job well done, having the timing of that caution and maintaining that track position in that final green-white checker. John, before we let you go, floor is yours for thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Yeah, I want to thank LaJoy's and Town Fair Tire for their support, and as always, the good people here at RTG who work so hard to put on this league, and of course you guys up there in the FRN booth, making it available to everybody to watch on YouTube, and we appreciate all you do.
Well, that's John Godfrey, second place here tonight at Coca-Cola Super Speedway. And as we said, he'll be looking to ride this momentum when we get to Nashville Super Speedway in 2 weeks' time. Congratulations on the great performance here tonight, John.
Thank you, guys.
User was
Going to
moved
be a
out of
good
your
point today for
channel.
John Godfrey, who came into this race 27th in the standings. It'll be interesting to see where this runner-up finish places him. For Jeremy Jeffries, he's going to have a 2 in the win column as he picks up his second checkered flag of the season here tonight. Let's dial him up in victory lane.
User was moved to your
Hey, Jeremy,
channel.
it's Sean and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
I do. How you guys doing?
Well, first off, congratulations. You got stage points here tonight. I know that was obviously a big thing that you wanted, as we saw you keep that one car out in front on a number of those yellows approaching the halfway point. More importantly, congratulations on the second victory of the season. Didn't take long for us to have a multi-time winner, but you had to get it done on the outside line on that final restart, got the push you needed, cleared going into 3. What kind of a mental checklist did you have were you going through there, getting ready for that final restart to make sure that you were going to be able to nose out ahead, if not clear that inside line?
Well, I was pretty confident with Dante behind me. I was going to get a good push, and we both got a good restart there. So that was the first thing that needed to go right. And then I went down and I ran the bottom lane in turns 3 and 4, trying to create a distance right there, and the caution came out, which was very beneficial. So didn't really have to hold anybody off or race for it there at the end. So I got a little lucky with this one. So I had a feeling if we'd ran that thing green, somebody was going to get a run in one of the lanes, maybe both the lanes. They could have split me. I don't know. I'm glad I didn't have to find out.
I got 2 quick things for you. First off, you had said after your first victory in week 1 of the season that you think you cursed yourself because you win the first week and then that was it for the season. And you broke that one.
Thankfully, yes, you're right.
And the second one, whatever darn time of the morning it was, because the whole world doesn't know, how much work goes in behind the scenes to make this series and to make these darn races happen. And at about whatever time this morning, we're canceling what we're doing in our day and getting back here because we couldn't run this track for whatever reason. So did you think at that point that you'd be sitting in victory lane tonight when at 10 of whatever time this morning we didn't even know if we'd have a race at this track tonight?
That was the farthest thing from my mind. The number one priority was getting this track up and working for everybody, and that was looking pretty bleak. I don't know, about 11:30 this morning. But thankfully, Mr. Sean Prime is a genius, and we got things sorted out, and we got to run it, and I got to win. So it's all good.
Not just logic and a great Race LM servers interface that we were able to use to get it sorted out. So congrats again on that, sir. It was a great run, and had that last lap continued, probably saw you having to block both lines at the same time. So I'm glad for you that didn't end up that way.
Me too.
Yeah, we talk so much about the importance of stage points, and you had a victory coming into tonight. I was asking Sean as we saw you stay out a little off sequence with a number of the drivers you had been running around the first portion of this race, of if maybe having that win gave you a little bit more freedom to then try and shoot for those stage points. Was that the case? And now having a second victory in the bank, does that give you even more freedom here going into these remaining races of this regular season to go out there and try and fight for these stage points, these stage wins, rack up more of these points for a high-seeded playoff position, maybe even take this regular season championship? Because I said, looking at it, just kind of eyeballing it right now, you, the 11, the 39, the 88, you were close coming into tonight. I feel like you guys are going to be even closer when we get to Nashville Superspeedway in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I was just happy to get some stage points. This is the first race all season I've gotten stage points. I think y'all had mentioned, and yeah, that was definitely priority number one. And yeah, I've definitely got some freedom now. I would like that regular season championship. That is a few extra bonus points, but gosh, in the grand scheme of things, I want to go out here and try to get as many points as I can, just to not feel like crap about not getting stage points. I don't know why. I just want stage points. Those things matter. I don't need them now. I've got 2 wins, but there's still so much dang fun to get.
There's also the regular season championship, so you can put them in the bank and try to charge for that too.
Very true.
Well, you get the stage points here tonight that you were lacking. You also get a second checkered flag. 3 races into the season, already a multi-time winner, and just going to continue to try and rack up those points in preparation for the playoffs. Jeremy, congratulations on the victory. Enjoy your off week here in preparation to maybe go for a 3rd victory when we come back here in 2 weeks to Nashville Super Speedway. But before we let you get back to your celebrating here tonight, we're giving the opportunity for some Victory Lane thank you sponsors and shoutouts.
Thanks, FRN, you and Sean for putting on the broadcast. Sean and David Cannon, all the staff here at RTG, for allowing us to put on these good shows and these good races. Thanks to Rodney for painting this awesome Oreo car. It's 2 for 2 this season. So I'm not sure I want to alternate like the original plan was. I might just stick with this one. And thanks to Dante for that great push. That's what ultimately won me the race. Congrats to John Godfrey for getting 2nd there. It's good to see him up front. And family, friends, everybody watching on YouTube, thank you.
Jeremy Jeffries, he is your race winner here tonight at Coca-Cola Super Speedway, 2nd checkered flag of season 65. Congratulations on the job well done. Go enjoy this victory, enjoy your off week, and we'll see you back at it at Nashville Super Speedway.
Thank you. Enjoy your off week too.
Jeremy Jeffries, your winner
User
here
was moved
tonight.
out
And I
of
love
your
you brought
channel.
up that little nugget there, Sean, because I forgot when we talked to him in Victory Lane a couple weeks ago at Kansas that he said it was going to be deja vu where he wins the season opener and doesn't win the rest of the season. He's broken that curse here tonight.
Yep, looks like he's got himself on a roll, and we've got some great tracks coming up, and I think you highlighted earlier, we've got a tight pack of drivers, which is not unusual to see, but a long season ahead. We saw some comers, we saw some goers tonight. I think it's a track that we'll see again, probably next year when we come around. It's probably worthy of a 2nd try. I think some guys got taste of that 3 wide there at the end, and might want to go for it again.
It's going to be interesting to see here, too. You know, when we talked with John Godfrey about his great run tonight, will that help to springboard him here into the upcoming races here in the regular season? I just kind of quickly looked down through our finishing results, and there's some other drivers that are mired down in the cellar of the points after 2 races or just below that 12th in the standings cut line, like a Denny Carroll who finished in 4th, Frank Rivard in 6th, Jim Gloud in 7th. You got to wonder, I know it's a super speedway, but sometimes you just need that one good finish to have it all come together, and these are drivers that we could easily see make a push here in the next upcoming weeks here as we draw closer to the end of this regular season for a spot, maybe not even necessarily winning, but for pointing their way up into a playoff position. It just takes that one race, and maybe tonight was that one race for one or multiple of those drivers.
Summer season's always an exciting one, and lots to look forward to here at RTG. And got a full week of racing ahead here before we get to the holiday weekend. You want to hear the highlights?
Absolutely. Let's go for it.
Well, tomorrow night we've got the RTG iRacing going again. This week we'll be taking the Toyota Gazoo Racing 86. That's free content, those Toyota sedans, and we'll be taking them at the Daytona Road Course. So a little Rolex week action with those cars. Wednesday night we're heading over to Aero 88 Series back on NR2K3. Bristol 1991 Night Edition, a new edition, another fun track, great version of Bristol. Thursday night, we know we're back at Talladega RTG V3 for the Tally Challenge, where we'll see you there, sir. And that's the rest of the week.
Absolutely. So, lot on tap here this week on the RTG side. Again, our coverage will continue here for this season after the off week on June the 2nd for the Barebones Racing Series. The next 2 weeks of the Talladega Challenge Series will not be broadcasted live. We will be back in action for that on June the 5th. That would be race number 5 on the season. Again, we'll try to do our best to have a recap for you on what happens in races 3 and 4. But a wild one here tonight. A little bit of growing pains with Super Speedway Racing, the brand new debuting track on the schedule with Coca-Cola Super Speedway. But for everybody that stuck around, they saw a thrilling finish here in the closing stages. Jeremy Jeffries picking up his 2nd victory on the season and now trying to potentially establish himself as the points leader going into the off week. We'll have to wait until everything is calculated to find out exactly who that points leader is going to be, but I feel like your top 4 or 5, it may be single digits between those two, or those 2, 3, 4, potentially 5 going into Nashville Super Speedway. Cannot wait for that. Sean, appreciate you joining me in the booth here tonight. Can't wait to get back at it here in a couple of weeks' time.
You got it, sir. Pleasure to be with you again. I try to do one thing better and hopefully not 4 things worse every time, but we'll get there. And again, enjoy.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into our coverage here tonight. Hope that you all enjoyed it. For Sean Prime, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your Monday night. You've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.